mirror shows me What's up? What's up? You're hanging with the beast. And is that not just, again, a phenomenal song by typeonegative? Obviously, it's World Coming Down off their album World Coming Down. Sounds even better live, if you ask me. If you hadn't had the pleasure to see them live perform that, it was friggin' phenomenal, man. So what I'm doing today is I'm breaking down, in my opinion, one of my favorite albums by typeonegative, one of their most underrated albums. Obviously, you know, I think World Coming Down definitely stood alone by itself in their amazing catalog. I've seen people talk about it before. I mean, for the most part, everybody loves it, but I think I've seen certain band members mention that they didn't dig it too much. I also have read excerpts from a couple of quotes from Peter, I believe, saying that during that time of the recording, or obviously what went into that album, was some very dark and hard times for him personally. And obviously you can sort of get that, get the idea for that when you're just listening to the lyrics and just, looking at the songs and whatnot. But, it's funny. When that came out, I remember the day that came out back then, which was like 1 billion years ago, it seems. It really wasn't that long ago. We used to await the release of an album, and you could go to the store, the music store, Sam Goody, over here by me by Music Station. You can go to wherever they sold music, and you could, await the day where the new album would be released. I think they still do that in Target or some shit like that. I really don't know. But it was exciting because you would, find out about the release date of the album from maybe a magazine or something like that, or word of mouth. And then you would actually go to the store and buy it. And hopefully, if you got there early enough, they weren't sold out. But I remember what I used to do is come home, grab the album, put it on right away, and just go through the book, look at the pictures, study the lyrics, just go through it fast, see what I could find out about it, and then just, pour into it. Because I feel that typeonegative was such an in-depth band and so talented in terms of, like I've said before, sound, creating their own original sound, blending the music, the lyrics, everything together. I'm talking about the packaging of the CD. We're talking about the art in the CD, the lyrics. They were so unique that you have to absorb each album for what it is. Each album was its own separate universe, if you ask me. And of course, the wonderful thing about them is that depending on what album you're talking about, there was so much going on in Peter's personal life. I mean, I think he mentions that, especially early on with some of the other work, whether it's Bloodykisses or Octoberrust. You can kind of hear what, obviously, like certain songs on Octoberrust, he's obviously singing about a certain females, certain relationships. Cover over to Bloodykisses, a little bit similar. And then you get to, I feel like Origin of the Feces was sort of like different than Slow, Deep, and Hard. I think they definitely found their sound, but they were experimenting with that that fake live album thing, which was hilarious. It was a lot of tongue in cheek humor, but yet it was just so unique and phenomenal in itself. There was a lot going on there, which just like seems like with just again probably I'm the farthest thing from a psychiatrist. I'm the farthest thing from a psychologist. I'm the farthest thing from a whatever it just. But I would just think like from a fan's point of view, there obviously like there was a lot of depth in those lyrics that carried over into other albums. But I think that this album was extremely. A lot of people considered it deep and dark. I thought it was absolutely genius. It was abso-fucking-lutely genius. And the thing that always captured me was just the cover of the album. It is by far one of the greatest pieces of artwork I've ever seen. Obviously, I don't think it's an artwork. I think it's just a regular picture. But the way, if you don't know what the cover of World Coming Down is, it's the bridge. Okay, Brooklyn in the background, the green right by the water. It speaks volumes, especially if you're a big typo-negative fan. You know what I'm talking about. It's them. It's Peter. It's everything about them. And I love when there was a real cool picture of them. I think it was on the back of the album at the time. It was all four of them, kind of all with the jackets on and everything. And it was just perfect, man. But again, like I felt that album never really got its due. Okay. And that's what this whole episode's about. Before we go further, I just gotta give props out to this T-shirt that's my favorite. Come on now, son. What are we talking about? The Warrior. I actually turned this motherfucker into a sleeveless. I had to. Couldn't have sleeves on a shirt with the Warrior. It just didn't feel right. But yeah, man, this is one of my favorite albums by them. It's funny, going to see them tour for this album. Or going to see them later on in concert. I always wanted them to. I was so happy to see that they incorporated, obviously, World Coming Down from this album. I heard them do Everything Dies live and Pyrettablaze a couple times, which was phenomenal just here, because I love this album, man. And just going through the tracks of the album, obviously, Skip It, how they usually do with a lot of their comedy and future albums. They would kind of start with like they did on Octoberrust. Makes you think that the album's fucked up. They do a little intro. White Slavery, such an in-depth song. When I first heard it, I didn't really know what he was referring to, but obviously after doing research and hearing him talk about it in several interviews and whatnot, obviously and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was his battle with cocaine, which was really unfortunate, which was really interesting too, because it came, I believe, at a later point in his life, where a lot of other artists or musicians have battled with that terrible drug early on. And for Peter, I think it came later on in his life, because for the most part, early on in his life, as you could see from a lot of the photos, pictures, interviews, and a lot of the info out there, he was a big health nut. Early on, lifting weights, taking a lot of vitamins. There's that, documentary that they first did where you could see him. He's got all those pills lined up all those vitamins, I should say, and supplements lined up in the bottle and all those holders, everything for each day of the week. So I can relate, because I do the same exact shit to this day. So obviously that song was about his battle with addiction. And again, typical, wonderful, typo-negative and Peter. The lyrics from it, to kill yourself properly, coke is it. When you first heard that, you didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. I figured, I don't know, doesn't like the soda much or something like that, but I don't know. But again, phenomenal song all the way around together. Very deep, very dark, but very true. That was another thing I really appreciated about the band, too, is that they spoke, or, through the lyrics, Peter was able to get out there what was going on in his personal life. Now, a lot of the time, that takes balls and a half. It takes balls and a half as a band to do that too, because you're taking a chance. You're putting yourself out there. But I think knowing the band, knowing Peter as we've come to know them over the years through their work, that was the great thing about them, that they put themselves out there on every album and in every song. Whether you love, hate, respect, get offended, that was what they did. And it's very rare. And I think that kind of comes from, I want to say that I kind of would think that a lot of that comes from a lot of the music that inspired them. Because again, when they were coming up, obviously, Peter born in 62, a lot of what inspired him, think about the music that inspired him of the time. So if he's born in 62, he really doesn't start to discover music till an early age. So all through the 60s, obviously it's the Beatles. I'm sure it's a little bit of the Stones. Then you move into the 70s with Black Sabbath and everything. Then you move into the 80s with a lot of punk rock, the Ramones, the whole CBGB thing, and then all that inspired him. I think that you know that's what I always liked about them is that they sung about all things fine, and you could hear a lot about that in Carnivore. Obviously, early on Peter, which is weird because I had just read a couple of excerpts from him as regarding Carnivore, talking about how I saw an interview. I think it was the one I posted with him and Julia. Going back, how he regrets some of the things that he had said early on. He was immature, whatever. And you have to appreciate that, because him being true like always. And again, like, how many artists have we seen just change during the times and just kind of evolve? And that's what I always felt they did. But that's what I loved about them, is that they were true to their work. They weren't singing about rainbows and skipping and Lucky Charms and fucking, Weezer type bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Because fuck Weezer, dude. I'm sorry. I got to say it all the time. They weren't singing about, I don't like to talk shit, and I gotta admit, I like the song. I'm not a Dave Matthews band fan, whatever the fuck, but I do like the song Satellite. They weren't singing about satellites. They weren't singing about, Crash Into Me. They weren't singing about Under the Fucking Table and Dreaming. You know what I'm saying? They were singing about some real deal shit that was going on that was like fucking intense as a motherfucker. And the funny thing is that I know as a fan, I always felt pulled in to the lyrics, to the music, to everything, the artwork. But I always felt that I could relate to stuff. Now, listen, I'm lucky, blessed, and appreciative and happy that I never got involved in drugs, man. I mean, it was never my thing. I'm not better than anyone by far, at all. My heart goes out to all people who've ever suffered from an addiction for any kind. So, but I never experienced the drug part. But I think that we can all appreciate the fact that as fans, hopefully what draws us to the music is that we find some type of kinship in some of the songs, some of the lyrics that we can relate to our own lives. I mean, let's face it, the way I look at shit is, I think that everybody is somewhat bipolar. How could you not be in this fucking world? Now, I don't say that lightly, because, of course, there are some people that have it 10 times worse off than us, and 10 times have it more intense. And again, I'm not a psychologist, a doctor, a this, a that, a printologist, whatever the fuck you want to say. But I'm just saying, from my own opinion, I think everyone is somewhat bipolar, and somewhat always people suffer from depression at different points in their life, anxiety. And again, that was always in there in the lyrics and the music, because we know that, Peter has unfortunately suffered, had his battles, I don't want to use the word suffered, battled is the type of word I'd like to use, because it's positive, and because he overcame it, if you ask me, or he just battled through it and put it into his art. That's what always drew me, is I remember just listening to this shit and just saying, well, I can relate to this a little bit. Or, the love part, or just being drawn to the stuff that wasn't out there at the time. Because let's face it, this type of music, there were bands that were putting out some stuff similar to this, but never, in my opinion, in its exact art form. And that's what I was drawn to. So this album fucking just spoke to me in a total different way. And again, just quickly going through the songs first. Sinus. Again, I always mention him. My good friend Frank Ferry and we used to laugh our balls off at Sinus, and we used to do that to each other. I thought it was hysterical, man. For whatever reason, Everyone I Love Is Dead. How can you not relate to that? Because when you think about it, for some of us, at some time in our lives, a lot of the people that we love and spend time with are no longer here. Now, hopefully you still have a lot of loved ones around. God bless you if you do. And if you don't, it's unfortunate, whether it's, God forbid, someone's mom, someone's dad, someone's grandparents, but just a genius of a song. Who Will Save the Sane is a fucking phenomenal song. Okay. Does not get its due at all. Liver, again, that little 1 minute 42 interlude thing was great. World Coming Down, to me, like I said before, is by far one of my favorite songs. Is by far, I feel, one of their best songs. It is, again, all things genius when it comes to typo negative. 11 minutes, 10 seconds. The genius in it is just so many things, whether it's the lyrics, whether what he's talking about. Like I always say, it's the journey of the song from beginning to end. And when you're on that journey, you're listening to it. It starts off at one area, and then in the middle it changes, and then it comes back again. But it's just telling the story, and it just draws you in so much, man. Creepy Green Light, another phenomenal song, does not get its due. For whatever reason, Everything Dies. Obviously, everyone knows that song. Again, no bullshit, man. It's truth. That's another thing I love about them, is that it's simplified, but it's genius when you think about it. It's like those little things that sometimes our loved ones tell us that we take for granted, but later on in life we figure out that as simple as they made it, it was right on the money. And sometimes that's, Everything Dies. I mean, what's better than that? Lung, another little 1:36 interlude. Pyrettablaze. I remember when the album came out, my boys and I, Ferry driving his, I think it was his Maxima. We would drive around a little high. So, obviously, I tried marijuana. I tried, not really, I don't consider that really a narcotic. So, I'm sorry. When people say, have you tried drugs? That doesn't go into the thing, whatever. But we were high as kites blasting that. I remember we would just drive around Brooklyn for whatever reason. I don't know I forgot what we were doing there, but that was the case with that one. Great song, man. Great lyrics. All Hallows Eve, listen. Girl had the lyrics up to All Hallows Eve on her story on Instagram. Now, I've been thinking about this a lot, man, because, look, I try and keep shit as real as I can and objective and shit like that. At the same time, I don't ever tell anybody everything about myself, nor should I think everyone should ever disclose everything about themselves to everyone, because it's nobody's business. Whatever, man. It's like, that's your business. Whatever it is that you consider to be sacred. Listen, I'm a Catholic, right? Am I the best Catholic? Fuck no, dude. I'm probably... I think I'm in the sub positive Catholic. In fact, I'm always afraid to go to church and pray, because I feel like all the saints' heads of the statues all turn to me and go, this scumbag's here, you know what I mean? But also too, like I'm not one of those. I'm not one of these hardcore people who believe in not that I say believe, but follow a lot of the man-made ways of the Catholic Church. Right? And I don't mean to get off on a whole tangent. What I mean by man-made is, look, let's face it. A lot of what goes on in organized religion has been manipulated by men of power, and still is for that matter. Money. I am a Catholic who is very spiritual, who is very proud of my faith. And I don't think I'm not one of these people that, I know I'm not better than anyone. I'm probably, I need a lot of prayers. I need a lot of, I don't think I'm getting into heaven. So I got to kind of do the Elvis thing, Elvis being my idol. Elvis always wore the cross. He had the Islam sign. He had the Jewish symbol. And I think he had another one. And when people would ask about, why do you wear all that? And he always would say, I don't want to miss getting into heaven on a technicality. I feel the same way. So hopefully through my mother and through my father, I'll get in. Although I think that whenever it is, whatever, I'll be waiting quite a bit. But that'll be okay. But anyway, like I'm saying, what I meant by this is, listening to All Hallows Eve, this chick had the lyrics up on her page. And there's those lyrics of, Saint Lucifer, hear me praying to thee on this eve of all saints. High be the price, but then nothing is free. My soul I'll gladly trade. I can't tell you how mesmerizing, shocking, and amazing those lyrics were, because never in my life have I ever heard lyrics like that, and they stick out to you. And you have to look, you have to take it into consideration within the art, within the song. Because let's face it, Peter was a Catholic. We all know that Peter started off, obviously, as a Catholic. I think he had his, you know, his trials and tribulations, as all people of all faiths do, where they have doubt and they question things. But I thought the great thing was that towards the second, or the end of his second half of his life, end of his life, whatever you want to say, he came back. I'd like to think that a lot of that had never really left him. Like all people do, we question things, but again, you got to take it into consideration with the song. Obviously, the song is about bringing back a woman that you're in love with so much that you're willing to trade your soul to the devil. Just a phenomenal song. I remember, I can't tell you how many times I've sent those lyrics to people. I remember people like, "What the fuck did you just say to me?" I'm like, no, it's a song, Dick. It's a song. And then when I heard the song, like, this is fucking really good, man. So again, another phenomenal song. And again, the album ends classic, typical, wonderful Typo Negative with a cover of the Beatles' Day Tripper. And they have that whole medley where they also cover If I Needed Someone, which is just phenomenal. I mean, I don't think it gets any better than that. Just looking it over now, the way the song just travels around. I mean, no one covered music the way they did. They made, like I said, they made everything better when it came to them covering music, whether it was Cinnamon Girl, like I mentioned before, Summer Breeze. I mean, no one's ever covered music. I don't even like to use the word cover, but I have to, just to be, I guess, honestly correct. I always felt like they made it their own. But back in the USSR, their versions were so much different and so much original. So original, I should say. They were just phenomenal. Now, again, this being Give Me Back My 90s Music podcast, the album came out in 99. And let's just go through a couple of interesting facts about the album, if you will. And I get these stupid ads that pop up. I don't know why. I hit the wrong fucking thing, but that's all right. Just going through some of the more important aspects of the album. Again, I think it's one in their catalog that has just really kind of shines out by himself. And again, just going by from this says, and again, Wikipedia could be wrong. It considered to be the darkest of the band's releases, having been written after a series of deaths in frontman Peter Steele's family, combined with the desire to break away from the sexually charged themes of the previous albums, which I guess you could definitely hear in the music. It was also the band's first album to reach the top 40 on Billboard. I remember that, looking on the Billboard and seeing it there. It's about fucking time, because all that shit should be high. I don't know who fucking rates this shit at the time. Let's see. Critical reception. It got 4 out of 5 stars, 5 out of 6 stars. Always, it received mostly positive reviews. Listen to this. The Washington Post. Mary Jenkins wrote that Typo Negative shows some unexpected warmth on the album, adding that much of the album thuds and growls, but the refrain of pyrettablaze is generally catchy. Okay. The self-proclaimed Drab 4 found a door medium between tenebrous melody and Sabbathy bad vibes. Very true. That's a very good look at it. This gentleman paid special attention to a number of songs. He described White Slavery and All Hallows Eve as perfect bookends for the record and as definitive Typo Negative songs. Yes, I agree. He should have considered World Coming Down in there as well. All the gloom, rage, and tranquility of their Pyrettablaze. He goes further, writing that pyrettablaze and Creepy Green Light showcase the varying sides of the band's personality by boasting crushing doom riffs and poppier sensibilities akin to octoberrust, respectively. This would be the album that breaks Typo Negative, but that remains to be seen. In 2021, it was named one of the 20 best metal albums of 99 by Metal Hammer Magazine. Thank you, Metal Hammer Magazine. I agree. I concur. In the words of Leonardo DiCaprio's character from Catch Me If You Can. Phenomenal movie if you haven't seen it, by the way. And just going through some of the it was 39 on the billboards out of 200. Obviously a lot of their work always kicked ass overseas in Europe. It was number 3 on the Finnish album chart, number 3 on the German album chart, number 8 Europe's top 100 albums. So always doing well. And of course they always have in addition to Peter, Kenny, and Josh and Johnny, the great Paul Bento playing sitar, tambor on World Coming Down and Day Tripper. And you can hear a lot of the great Paul Bento's, phenomenal playing on a good deal of their albums. They stick out by themselves. Guys, I had the pleasure of talking to him a couple times and meeting him. Phenomenal, great guy. Phenomenal, in-depth musician as well. Let's see. I think it's really important that they talk about how it's one of their darkest and gloomiest albums. Yeah, it is. But I think that's the genius of it. It really is the genius of it. Again, if you're not familiar with them and you're listening to this album for the first time, you're going to be in for some shit, man. Because, you got to know, I think you got to know your background to listen to them a little bit more, to really appreciate them and where they're coming from. Because it only really helps you understand, the depth of the band and what's going on. So it only makes sense, But again, just what I also this was the picture was one of the pictures I was talking about. This was from the single Everything Dies. That great picture, if you can see that. Obviously the light's a bit of a bitch. That was a kick-ass picture, man. I always really enjoyed that one. And the other one I was talking about, obviously, was the cover album picture. Sorry about the bright light. I mean, I always wanted to frame that picture and just put it up. Maybe I definitely will sometimes, because I just think it's genius. And what I wanted to do is just go through a little bit of the songs, because I'm a big lyrics guy, and obviously this band has has just had so many songs with original and phenomenal lyrics that stand alone. I mean, looking at White Slavery, I make a call so far to fall, restless craving, inundating, the summer snow, but it's not cold. Once it's tested, thus infected. I've lost myself again. It's a nightmare, but it's clear it will end, but when? And then it stops the song, in classic Typo Negative way. The break of day I rot away with every breath I pray for death. I've lost myself again. It's a nightmare, but it's clear it will end, but when? And then, of course, there's that great part. Let me say, Pepsi generation, a few lines of misinformation. Watch your money flow away oh so quick. To kill yourself, probably coke is it. The truth is hidden in there, or what he's talking about. Obviously, he's talking about a battle with cocaine. So it's genius the way he was able to get the message across in that song. And then going to Everyone I Love Is Dead. It seems 3 years, throw maybe 4. Someone drops dead whom I adore. You love someone, there will be grief. The kiss of death, lips of a thief. God damn it! A dusty stack of photographs of times I've cried but mostly laughed. Commit the past into blue flame, acrid smoke, cowardly shame. Then that dun 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 dun. Best part of the song, as far as I'm concerned. At times I'm truly terrified because dope and booze don't help to hide. They're used to mask a weakling's hurt. It's just like painting over dirt. So again, the truth is in there. He's talking about obviously himself. Okay. Life's a game I cannot win. Both good and bad most surely end. The mirrors always tell the truth. I love myself for hating you. Fucking that's fucking genius. I just said fucking that's fucking genius. You believe that? Who will save the sane? I always got a kick out of the some of the stuff. Periodic table where psychotropic science fair, but who will save the sane? Some beings just can't change. Now crawl on by a fake tear in your eye and think, isn't he strange? I always wondered what he was referring to in that song. If anyone has any knowledge of that, please let me know. I guess he was talking about somebody, maybe a woman that he had a problem with who took advantage, unfortunately. Pseudogazic chemistry, necromorphic apathy. But it will save the same. Some being just can't change. Now crawling by a fake tear in your eye and think, isn't he strange? Physical laws unapplied, hampered by quest, unsurreal world of unfailed HIV test. Wow. Tentative ambulance, date bound for G Ward. Bear trap psychiatrist bait. Chew my paws off. Unmercilessly, we will take you away to slumber, but only if you can recite Avogadro's number. Come on, boy. I wonder if he's talking about when he beat the living shit out of the guy he found cheating with his girlfriend. I'm not sure if this went on during that period, but um, I don't know. It sounds like that. And then, of course, I mean, you know, World Coming Down. I don't even have to do because everyone knows how great that song is. It stands alone by itself. But I got it. It's just she thinks I'm Iron Man. That I don't feel pain. I don't understand why joy must be feigned. I'm so fortunate you're filled with self-hate, yet the mirror shows me and great. I mean, if you have any essence of what he's talking about, if you experienced that, whatever the case may be, man, that hits you hard, and you fucking absolutely love it. I could easily stop pointing fingers since the blame is mine. It always lingers. That the truth lies, my reflection. No, this can't go on. There's no question. And then there's that great, yeah, I know his voice sounds phenomenal in that part. And then there's that great change of the music again. How quickly pass the days, long as the night, lying in bed, awake, bathed in starlight. Possibly some of the greatest lyrics right here. Better to live as king of beasts than as a lamb scared and weak. Genius is as genius does. I will deny my role as a human, holding myself hostage with no demands. It's better to burn quickly and bright than slowly and dull without a fight. And then the song changes. You hear it's Josh, dun 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 dun. Starts off simple, and then the whole picks up, and I know that man just explodes. Man, what a combination of the music, the lyrics, everything going on this roller coaster, up down, exploding, coming down. I mean, there was only one group, man. There was nobody like them. Creepy Green Light again, genius. This Halloween, so unlike any other. Her final words: "Don't be afraid of the green light." I've always loved this next section. On muddy ground, I'm lying drunk on her grave, where I must wait until she wakes. The soil split. Greenwood cemeteries, ground will quake beneath me. Another thing I always loved is how Peter incorporated his surroundings into his music. And so shall take into the earth to the green light. Best part of the fucking song, man. The autumn air thickly fills my lungs so sweetly, reminds me of her smoky breath. With wine in this bouquet of maple and oak leaves, in her death a life will always be. And then there's that great, I find myself drawn to her shadow domain. This moonlit night, late October, swirling fog gloom, and as promised I mean, if you got a lady and you crazy about her, and God forbid she passed, and you want her to come back from the dead, like this is the song that fucking hits you right in the, that does it for you, as to say. Everything dies, man. How I don't know about you guys. We were debating for so long what he was saying in the beginning. First, we all thought it was "I like Spider-Man." That's what it sounded like if you didn't know. But obviously, it's "I like vitamins." All right, Pete likes vitamins. I mean, who else could use those? Could put that into a song and just make it sound genius? Well, I love my aunt, but she died, and my uncle Lou, and then he died. Again, talking about real family members. I'm searching. I always, in my opinion, and I don't like to give this out there because I don't want anyone to do it, but I want to get lyrics tattooed on myself that mean something, and I've always wanted these lyrics. I'm searching for something which can't be found, but I'm hoping. I think that phenomenal fucking lyrics. That those lyrics alone, most likely, for all type of negative fans, speak to you and just wrap their arms around you, and it makes sense to you. It always has to me. And then, of course, I still dream of Dad, though he died. And then my mom's so sick she might die. Though my girl's quite fit, she will die. Still looking for someone who was around, barely coping. Now I hate myself, wish I'd die. Um, Again, simple but brilliant. That's what I love about them. Yeah, pyrettablaze. Beautiful yet dangerous, thermogenic, luminous, like a moth drawn to a flame. I'm the same, all cremated equally. As a spark, still I knew I'll be Lord, be consumed. She a pyre incarnate, incinerate, and inferno turn to flesh. The next area of the song, the beat picks up. You are the first, will be my last, will be my final words. Had she? Oh, what the way they put the music and the lyrics together. There was no other band like that. Hence, be why we all fucking love them and miss them, because there will never be anything like them again, and it's a fucking tragedy, and it sucks. Say the words I long to hear, pinch by kiss, suck, lick, and sear. In a pyromantic way, I'm a slave, living for her to ignite. Come on, man. We don't get shit like this anymore. Not even close. I already talked about All Hallows Eve, okay? But just touching it briefly, full fires burn neath black twisted bows, sacrificed to above, smoke swirling quickly towards mystic clouds, offering this blood into the flames, and with that shame consume house and scream. Pumpkins grin in dead despair, and we used to laugh at that line. Just think of the pumpkins grinning. Cruel be the wind as it quells my nerves. A shout out to the rain. Incantations I've so hope you heard that you live again. I mean, fucking phenomenal. Phenomenal. Oh man, I implore so many people who were never into typo negative, listen to the whole fucking catalog. Listen to it. Read the lyrics. Take it all in. You're missing out. And finally, their version of Day Tripper, which I really don't have to go over because you guys, everyone who knows the Beatles and whatnot, got a good reason for taking the easy way. Got a good, and again, the way that the way that you know the depth of the music of their version was one in itself. Very deep, very heavy, fucking awesome. And I love the way it changes. To if I needed someone to love, you're the one that I've been. Again, you think of like where the Beatles were coming from back in their day. Very light, very, very Beatle-like, very 60s. And then Typo Negative's version, which is again is kind of much different, very kind of heavy, a little bit. Still, I want to say it wasn't really heavy, light for them, but still like toned down and deep, which was phenomenal. Listen, man, this by far was one of my favorite albums by them. It's one of the albums that I always go back into the catalog and listen to, especially when you really want to appreciate some really good music from their catalog. But then again, I'm biased because I'm a humongous fan. I think all songs that they released were genius. But I think that this album just stands alone, and you can see that so many other people do, especially that Metal Magazine that ranked it really high, which is understandable, because I think that it stood alone. It was so genius in terms of the depth of the words, the way the collaboration with the music. I mean, just like all their albums, again, that's the one thing that I always felt they were so steady about, was the wonderful collaboration that they had in terms of music, in terms of the sound, in the way that they were able to lengthen a song out. They were able to change sounds during the song. I mean, and again, I don't even want I want to take away for the fact for a second that I'm a fan and look at this objectively from just a music lover's fan. It was fucking 1 in a million that will ever see that again, or 1 in a whatever the fuck. You know, I mean, it's just genius the way they were able to do things. And I tell you, if you had the pleasure, were lucky enough to see them live, or you were around and, you know, old enough to experience them and be into them when Peter was alive, it was such a phenomenal time. It was such a phenomenal time, not just in the timeline of Type O Negative, but I think in music in general, because like I've said so many times before, and I apologize for being a broken record, but you had this grunge thing, which was phenomenal, right? But you had Type O Negative, and they were totally different than the grunge thing. It was a total separate sound. I mean, you know, a grunge song you knew, a metal song you knew. Then there was Type O Negative. In fact, if I ever, you know, was going to write a book about Type O Negative or something like that, I would call it "And Then There Was Type O Negative," because I feel that statement, you know, stabilizes them among everybody else in the times, because they were so separate and so different from so many others, and that's what made them wonderful. And again, it's always something that has sat on my mind as how they weren't, and I'm not saying they weren't big, but how they weren't bigger than all the other bands around them at the time. And I guess, you know, it's a lot to do with politics. It's a lot to do with all the other stuff that has to go on in the music industry, which I don't know shit about, but I'm just going from my own opinion. And it sucks. But we all know that in terms of music, in terms of, you know, collaboration, in terms of being different, in terms of standing alone, creating your own sound, which is so rare, they were up here. They were all the way up here. And I think if you speak to most people that are knowledgeable about music, who are familiar with Type O Negative, they will say the same. Unique, nobody like them, their own sound, and fucking greatly missed. Greatly missed in this world, man. In this musical, well, I don't want to say music-less world. Again, to find great music, you really have to fucking put on your Indiana Jones hat, the strap, the whip, the gun, fucking call short round and go fucking find it, because we don't have that anymore. But they were, like I said, were in a class by themselves, and this by far is one of my favorite albums by them. And if you get a chance and you're really not familiar with this album, go and do yourself some justice and listen to it. Listen to it twice, listen to it 3 times, read the lyrics, close your eyes, take it in, absorb it. Like I said, it's so in depth. It tells the story. You appreciate it so much more. And I could see, I think I could be wrong, but I don't want to quote people who I'm not sure if they said it. I remember seeing it, but I don't know which band member said it, that it was one of the albums they didn't like or something like that for whatever reason. And I could totally understand that, because again, like, their experience of making the music is so much more different than our experience of hearing it. So God knows, you know, what was going on during those times, the hardships. Well, God knows what it was like to put together all those sounds and just kind of collaborate and make it what it was. But sometimes out of that craziness, if so be, comes genius. And we've seen that happen with so many different artists. You know, one artist's madness is a fan's or somebody else absolute light bulb and just makes sense to them. And I think that's what this album was. But nonetheless, by far one of my favorite albums, just breaking it down. And let me know how you feel about their album. I know there's some, I mean, again, the Type O Negative fan base is just one in its own. It's phenomenal, man. I mean, I think it's even gotten only bigger and better Um, unfortunately, I should say, unfortunately, since Peter died, and it's, sometimes I guess when a great artist leaves us, we reflect back on it and we're able to appreciate it so much more, especially for us that were that for those of us that were here to see him live, maybe lucky enough to meet him, maybe lucky enough to know him, but appreciate his music when they were here, go see them in concert. And then there are those that are new to this and appreciate it, and that's always even better. And I think the one person I can think of about that comes to mind is my main dude is Elvis. When I went to go see the Elvis movie, there were so many young people there who may or may not have been familiar with Elvis. I don't know, but I know that so many of them have come more to appreciate his music now with that great movie that came out with the great Austin Butler and Tom Hanks. They definitely deserve awards, as does the movie. So that happens a lot sometimes, with a lot of artists who pass away. And I think that sometimes when you really love music altogether and the artist or artists are no longer there, the band's not together, and you delve into their catalog in depth, you really, if you love it, you really appreciate it. And through your love of it and through your filtering it out to different types of people, you get others inspired, and you find other people just like you who are into it. And they could be younger, they could be elder, but nonetheless, that society exists. And that's the great thing about the typo negative fans, man, is that, look at all the pages that they have for them. Look at all the pages they have for Peter, the appreciation for the music, the appreciation for all the band members, for all the stuff they put out there. It's amazing. It's great, man. It's great to be part of. So, yeah, let me know how you guys feel about World Coming Down, where you rank it, if you rank it on their catalog of music, whether it's top, whether it's bottom, whether it's middle, whatever. I always love hearing from everybody, for everybody's feedback, whether they think I'm full of shit or whatever. That's all cool, too. But yeah, hit me up. You can hit me up on Instagram. And if you get a chance, please subscribe to the YouTube page. I really appreciate it. Just going to take you out with some more of World Coming Down live. So, hanging with the beast. It's been nice. I'll be coming back to you soon with some other content. Be well.